All right. Okay. We talked a little bit about The Last Dance, talk some of that stuff. Did you fellas want to jump into a little NFL draft?
I thought we were going to do a little Mount Rushmore.
Oh, we can Mount Rushmore. That's fine by me. I'll give you mine. Hey, now I wanna say this up front though. I tried to pick guys that I actually saw play on my mount. I just always have a tough time going with the old Kuzi when I've only seen Kuzi, he stole the ball and that's all I know. I didn't really get to see him play. So I tried to stick with guys that I actually have seen play. So mine real quick, as far as my Mount Rushmore, I'm going Jordan, Magic, LeBron, and Kareem. Mason, who you got on yours?
I have Jordan, Magic, LeBron, and Kobe. And I do want to say this about my boy LG and his Larry Legend. Larry would be 5 on my team, and the only reason why I picked Kobe over Larry, and this is the truth, more titles. And if you look at that Celtics team from the mid '80s, every starter on that team is in the Hall of Fame. So that is my only thing that I bumped Kobe ahead of Larry Legend. And I was the same as you, Keith. It's hard for me to talk about Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Oscar and those guys. You hear all the stories. I look at the numbers. They're great. But I was kind of looking at it from 1980 to 2020.
Yeah. Hey, is Mason dark to anybody else here?
Yes.
Yeah, he's been the whole time.
There you go. I was gonna say it's like, yeah. I thought he was like on witness protection or something. I was getting a little worried.
The
Minerva politics was a little too much for him.
He is a councilman.
All right. Derek, what you got, man?
I got Darius Miles, Desanya Job, Stockton Job, DeJuan Wagner, and Larry Hughes.
You want to trade?
Everybody got to be a comedian.
Buddy.
Wow, Darius
Miles. I got Jordan, Larry Legend, Magic, and LeBron.
All right. Grammy, who you got, man?
Great minds think alike. Mine's the same as D5. Bird, Johnson, Jordan, James.
Right.
I did the same thing as far as the old timers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, but it's just I have no heart in it. I mean, if we're going to debate about my Rushmore, I got to have a little bit of carrying to it.
Yeah. How am I gonna? Yeah. I don't know what they did. Danny, who you got? You got Craig Leeser?
I went a little bit different, and that's going to shock you. Shocking. That's shocking. Like I went about like impact on the game. So like I did not necessarily because we all would have picked some sort of combination that you four did. So like for me, I went Jordan obviously and LeBron. Like those were those two, and then I went Shaq, and then Steph Curry.
See, you had to do it, didn't you?
You're wrong. I'm just straight impact on the game. That if I'm doing Mount Rushmore, I'm doing some combination of that. But I mean, if you're talking, Jordan saved the NBA. LeBron, there's no human being like him on a basketball field, on a basketball court, and I think Shaq's the same way. And then Steph. The last 7 years of the NBA, is it not because of Steph?
My only disagreement with you, and I understand what you're trying to do because that's what you do, but the Shaq argument is tough, and I think Shaq was amazing. But you look at it, as soon as Shaq left, there are no big men in the game anymore. No one plays like that anymore. So I don't know how that argument plays. I get your Steph, but I don't think Steph goes anywhere near those 4 or 5 guys that we've been talking about. And maybe he will at some point, but I have a hard time.
I'm not saying that he is as good as those guys. That's not what I'm saying. I don't. He's not as good as Larry. He's not as good as Magic. But if you're talking straight impact on a game, I mean,
but okay, you're saying straight impact. Give me. Are you just saying because of how he can score? Is that what you're saying? His scoring.
I'm just talking about. Okay, so what? Like, let's use early 2000s and what the average NBA team. Again, I don't have the stats. I'm just saying what. How many threes would the average NBA team probably shoot? 15.
Okay.
A game.
So you're talking about, all right.
So now you're seeing teams like. Is there any team that shoots 15 a game? I mean, everybody shoots 20 above, right? I mean, like, so that's where I'm talking as far as the impact on the game. And it kind of goes along with what Mason said. I mean, you know, Shaq leaves, he's gone, there's no big men. So now the game is adapted to a bunch of 6'1", 6'2" guys who can chuck it 16 times from 23 feet and beyond.
All right. I mean, I don't like it, but, you know. I at least understand where you're coming from now, though. I get that. You talking about his impact. I understand that.
Yeah. Shaq dominant for sure. I'm just not. I've never been a big man guy, you know, and that's not dissing them because I mean Shaq was unreal, in his prime. And, you know, Akeem. I mean. Wow, what a player, and Duncan, you know, the same way. But I'm just not a big man guy. Steph, man, a player, but gosh dang, I mean, the top four, I don't know. I mean, skill set, yes, because, I mean, he wouldn't be in the NBA without ball skills that he has. But, I mean, when you look at, especially, nothing against Jordan, because I know Mason's in love with Jordan just like I'm in love with Bird. If you look at my top three, I feel are Bird, Johnson, and James. And it's because all three major statistics. I mean, you're talking about three men that are, you know, basically 6'9" and can run the point and yet take you down to the box and give it to you too, you know, and they were willing to guard. And to me, those three are different. I mean, Jordan, I can't take him on because, I mean, it's like he is the most prolific scorer ever. I mean, watching just highlights of him, I mean, it does show almost how unsmooth and rigid everybody's game was until he came. You know what I mean? It looks like playing robots out there. You know, he scored 63. Looks like he's and Bird's on a crutch. There, but, I mean, those first three guys, though. I mean, it kills me to talk about Magic, but Magic Johnson is the reason I wanted to go to the playground. I mean, to give a no-look dime to somebody. I mean, to make that showtime. I mean, it was showtime, transition. I mean, the Celtics were good, and Bird came into it and adapted to that, but they weren't running. You know, I mean, Magic came and was like, Cream, you're going to get up and down the floor. You know, get me the ball and we're going. And, I mean, and LeBron's LeBron. I mean, I hate to say it sometimes, and I like to dog him, but he may be the greatest of all time. I feel. I mean, he's doing things at his age and stuff that's just unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable how well he can play and how well his body's endured all these years in the NBA. Now, I think if Larry would have not dove on the floor every other play, but that was his style, maybe he could have been, you know, a little more in that talk. But I think, I mean, I hear it breaks my heart to say it too, but I think LeBron's probably the best of all time.
D?
I love you guys' thoughts. I want to say stuff about Curry, but that really wouldn't add to the conversation. But man, I you know, we could be getting into a whole different thing here, talking about who the greatest is. So I like talking about the top four. You can't go wrong with the guys that we mentioned, though. You honestly can't.
No. I mean, you know, the Larry Bird, he was just a winner. I mean, but like Mason said, I didn't like the Celtics, but you had to respect those guys because they could all ball. I mean, it was like McHale was phenomenal. I mean, like if Kevin McHale plays with anybody else, it's unbelievable. But, you know, because it's him and the Chief and Larry and
Right.
DJ, and I mean, it was just it was a different ball game back then where you could have that many guys playing together and and just being phenomenal. So
on a side note, I know I've talked to each of you individually, I think, about this, but my pops told me once, he's like, man, I hope you appreciate the era that you grew up in when you're talking about the NBA. I mean, like, we've literally seen the best of the best from the time we were kids all the way till now. And I mean, it's pretty cool to look back and say that. And now look, and you see the studs now, LeBron and those guys, and we are pretty fortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no doubt. And the game is, like Mason was saying, the game has changed too. I mean, it's so much more free flowing. But we've gotten to see that whole transition from throw the ball down in the post, guys stand around and that kind of brings me to my next point, which I thought about from last night that was shocking to me, was not so much how they fired Doug Collins, which was pretty awesome because that sports reporter was like, who's not going to work this Monday morning? Doug Collins. I'm like, wow, that's gold. But like Tex Winter and him running his offense, running that triangle offense. All I kept thinking about this morning was you had arguably the greatest player ever fight it, because you could see that with Doug Collins, he just had the ball in his hands. He got to do kind of what he wanted to do. But he was willing to run that offense. He gave it a chance, and they ended up being world champs. And then you see Tex Winter and Phil go to LA and run the triangle again. My question to all of you guys is, it's a copycat league. Everybody's copycats, except for that. Like, nobody's running the triangle. Did anybody else run a triangle?
I think there are lots of versions of it. The difference is nobody had Michael or Kobe. I mean, to me, that's the biggest difference.
And you might be absolutely right. Coaching as much as I've coached, I've seen people run sets like, hey, we're going to run this set and it's called Chicago. And it went into the triangle. But I'm thinking like, okay, if the best of the best are running this and it's got all these variations off of it, how am I running dribble drive with everybody and their grandma who can't dribble drive to save their life, but we can't run something like the triangle? Like, it's like nobody talks about that. Even people who run Princeton stuff, but nobody sits and goes, hey, man, we're going to run a triangle. I don't know. And like I said, it could be as simple as Mason's saying. It could just be, hey, if you don't have those guys, it won't work. But I don't know.
Sexy.
Go ahead.
It's not sexy.
Yeah,
Actually, I think that's it too. But the drill, like you say, Keith, that's a great point, because obviously, I mean, I spent time coaching basketball, and everywhere I went, there was some variation of the dribble drive, and we're supposed to be assessing talent, and we had a majority of kids that couldn't get you off the bounce. And we're also copycatting it off of a guy who really no one respects in Calipari, you know what I mean? And then we just throw Phil Jackson to the side like, he's just a hippie, you know. We'll go Calipari. But I mean, seriously, that was good. It just hit me like, oh my gosh. But Mace, that's a great point. It's not sexy. And maybe to that other point you made, Mace, where you think, oh, we don't have that talent. Maybe that's not why. I mean, it's basically a motion, you know, a 4-on-1 motion, but there's more intricacies than that, obviously. I mean, why didn't they? I thought the same thing, Keith, when I just saw Phil Jackson today. Like, nobody even really talks about him much. I think it is because of the players he had, but you got to give him kudos that he kept all those egos in check. Like, that's Robin, go to Vegas, dude. Whatever, if this keeps you, go to Vegas. You know, he was a player's coach before that was cool. You know, like he definitely knew the game, but he also knew how to, you know, manage people.
You know, I think it all goes, you can look at it in every sport, you know, when we talk about it not being sexy, because, you know, for years, 3 yards at a cloud of dust worked. And it probably would work today. You line up in too tight and just try to pound the ball. You know why no one does it? Because no one wants to watch it. You know,
Baltimore does it right now. It worked pretty well for them.
What's that?
If Baltimore did it this season, it worked pretty well for them.
Well,
I mean, honestly,
the quarterback.
Vast majority, yes, I agree.
You look at small ball and baseball. Do you ever see anybody bunt or hit behind runners anymore? I mean, those are all things that you did for years, but it's not sexy. I mean, it's not a home run. It's not a 450-foot home run. So, I think you could say the same thing about that offense. If you're not shooting threes or dunking the basketball, no one really wants to watch.
Right, like the range jumper is obsolete. Like most clinics I even went to in the last 5 years, they even ask you why you're taking a 2 outside of 5 feet. Like, why are you doing it? Like, what do you mean? Well, why wouldn't you step back 3 steps and shoot a 3? I'm like, percentages, but I mean, a 15-footer. I've been in multiple practices where kids shoot 15, 16-footers. They get pulled, they get yanked. Like, what are you doing? Wide open, stepping into it. What are you doing? I mean, dead serious. So,
well, you're right, Mason. I mean, if you look at, like when we were younger, like Tony Gwynn today is my favorite hitter of all time. Like nobody wants to watch Tony Gwynn today. Dude hit 180 singles a year. You know what I mean? I mean, he would hit the ball where nobody was at. Wouldn't matter. But he also struck out 13 times a season. I mean, we want to watch Rob Deere strike out 220 and hit 40 bombs. Like that's just what that's way more sexy.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't know. There's a part of me though that says if you had more guys like Tony Gwynn, I think part of the problem is I agree with Mason in a respect of it's not sexy, but I also think it's a part of kids just aren't very fundamentally sound, no matter what sport we're talking about anymore. And kids aren't as tough sometimes as they used to be in the past. So to me, hitting behind a runner, I know we talk about it's not sexy, but to have the bat control and to do those types of things, you got to be exceptional to do those things. And now everything's so skewed the other way where it's like, well, hey, we just need you to hit this ball over the fence and we'll take 200 strikeouts. Like you said, I look at basketball and I think when you look at the triangle and the way it's set up, like if you don't understand basketball, you can't run the triangle offense. Like I could have no clue as to what I'm doing offensively and I could run dribble drive. Why? Because I'm putting the ball in one dude's hands and the rest of you guys basically get out of the way and I'm going to take this guy one-on-one. It's like, I always think about Spot talking about kids in Akron playing basketball in Akron City. And he would say, our plays, Keith, were we had 5 plays. We had play number 1, which meant the point guard shot the ball and took it. Play number 2 meant the 2 guard took it. Play 3. I mean, it was that simplistic. And even when I would go scout, sometimes I would still hear Akron public school coaches go 3. And the 3-man would get the ball, everybody else would get out of his way, and he'd just take the ball to the bucket. It's like you don't have to understand the game. And I just don't feel like we take time to teach the game the way I think we used to. Like I think people just used to be more sound. And now it's like, well, no, I don't need you to be sound. If you're a big kid, I just want you to hit a home run. Or I don't need you to be sound. I just need you to jack up this 3, like Lance is saying, and I don't know. I think that's a part of the problem too. I just don't know if we get the fundamentals the way they used to. So kids aren't developed.
I want to totally piggyback on that. I was going to say it. You guys got some really good points, but in thinking about the triangle, when I went to BW and I get there and I'd never run a triangle in my life, and we're all 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" white dudes who are all the same and we all play the same pretty much. You don't have that stud athlete like you would at the D1 level or in the league or anything like that. So you need to be able to have guys who can move around like that, but in a strategic way. I thought it was interesting last night because I heard the same thing from my coach when I got there. When Phil Jackson was like, there's 33 different options after the initial pass. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, I did.
And I'll never forget. I went from high school to college and I was swimming mentally just because of that. It's like, okay, I pass here. I know I do, and it's like, I ended up loving the offense because it worked for us, but I could see why, I remember there was some feedback. People didn't like it because you're not getting guys who were scoring a bunch of points. We were like pretty much well-rounded as far as our scoring averages go. So that was kind of interesting as well.
And those games were in the 80s. You know, I mean, not in the year of the 80s. I mean, the scorer were in the 80s.
Right.
So
yeah, and it was. I mean, even last night a couple times it was like 89, 94. I mean, and you're looking at those scores, you're thinking like, wow, and again, kids today don't understand because they'll say like, oh, it's because guys couldn't score. And I'm like, no, guys could score, but guys would D you up back then. Like it wasn't like they were just giving you free reign. You had to earn it. But
you could hand check back then too. I mean, that's it's a little bit different too.
Hey, one thing I took from that I don't know if you guys noticed it, but during that whole Doug Collins era towards the end, there were a couple things that were said. Doug Collins even said himself, I could tell Phil was going to be a head coach. He said that with a couple years before he got the boot. And then, Jerry Reinsdorf in episodes 1 and 2, I feel like I'm talking about Star Wars right now. He was portrayed as the bad guy, but he really did force the hand of the Bulls to, have Phil Jackson be the head coach. Remember, he said even when Doug Collins was the head coach, he's like, I want you to go spend more time with Tex Winters.
Right.
And I think that's where he kind of took him under his wing and taught him the triangle right there.
I agree. Good stuff though, man. Good stuff, fellas. You guys got anything else before we kick off this segment? Excuse me, this segment. Look at Dan. I want more film of Dan balling back in Tuskegee Valley days. That's what I want to see.
If I could get those on DVD.
We don't need to see any of that.
That'd be gold right there.
Oh,
Nobody needs to see that.
There wasn't much of debate about Rushmore, but I don't think how is it, when you actually look at the analytics of it? Like I even admitted that I feel like LeBron probably is.
Well, I think when you narrow it down from the 80s up,
right,
I think it makes it a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it is what it is. You could debate the order.
Right. True.
Oh, Keith, one more random thing.
Go ahead, man.
How about Ron Harper's show last night?
Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. Harper came out like he was still pissed off, man. Yeah. He was still pissed off. I was like, wow, Hart.
We're gonna put you low on him. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't repeat what he said.
I just noticed Harper's love affair with Jordan in the second one. I watched him and he was hugging MJ. Every clip they had, there was like hugging on him and stuff.
Hey, Grammy, you wait till he talks about the shot against Cleveland.
He Hart's a little fired up, man.
He didn't like those dribbles and buckets.
Yeah, he was not happy with Elo getting that call to guard him. Yeah.
Not the best decision.
All right, fellas.
All right.
I'm not even going to ask. I'm going to let it go.
Baseball. Because Magnolia lets you play second base in a 30 and over game, doesn't mean talk baseball.
All right, I'm ending this segment. That's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's great. That's fantastic.